There we go. Another beautiful bass. This is about the 15th one of these fish I caught. You know, in many cases today, North American angling for many species of fish is better than it's been in a long time. And there's a number of different reasons for that. Number one is we have a smarter management philosophy, stocking programs, and one of the biggest things, and that's what you're part of, is slot limits and catch and release. And that's what I want to talk about, is look at properly catching and releasing fish to maintain in stewardship of the fish that we have, so these fish can be more or less recycled. Come here, buddy. That's a beautiful fish. Boy, there's been catching a whole bunch of them. There we go. I don't even know how many of those guys I caught today. You know, one of the biggest things to really successful catch and release is a good net. This is a Stonemaster net, but one thing that's really important about this net, you'll notice it has a fine diameter mesh that minimizes really tearing up the fish and splitting its fins. But one of the biggest things is it's got this rubber guardian coating, which is more or less tangle free. The hooks don't get hung on it, and it's really easy to get the fish out of the net, and actually, ultimately, to get the fish back into the water for a successful release. A good net is one part of the puzzle. The other thing is a good tool for getting hooks out. And this is a Rapala long-nose pliers. This is a classic instrument used by so many anglers, you know, for fishing today. But the thing is, I also carry a number of other tools dependent on the species of fish I'm after. For muskies, I carry a pair of bolt cutters, a jaw spreader, and a heavy-duty pair of pliers for getting really big hooks out. But that's one thing, is to have the tools right at hand to really quickly ensure to be able to get the hooks out of the fish's mouth as expediently as possible. Back to fishing. You know, one thing that's really important to understand when it comes to really successful catch and release, this is really particularly true when you're talking about trophy fish. I'm talking really big walleyes, big muskies, big lake trout, is how you hold the fish. Most of the time you'll notice when good anglers pick up a fish like that, what they're going to do is hold the fish by the lower jaw, the mandible, and hold it in a horizontal fashion like this. The reason being is their weight, if you hold them straight up and down, it's really hard on the fish itself. And realistically, it's the reverse. A lot of people would think a real great big fish like that is tough, but realistically, that fish is far more delicate than a 2 or 3 pound bass. And they only hold them out of the water for a minimal amount of time. They're prepared with the camera. They lift the fish up out of the net that's in the water in many cases. They hold the fish in place, get the shot, and they place the fish back into the water really, really quickly. That's really critical for a successful release for just about any different species of really big fish. You know, if you're catching a lot of fish, and dependent on where you're at in certain regions of the country and in Canada, it's actually barbless. And what you do is you go in there and you actually flatten out the barb. And you can do this with a plug as well as a jig, and that'll really speed the process to be able to get the hook out of the fish. If it doesn't have that barb, it just slips right out. The last part of the catch and release puzzle is getting that fish back into the water. And you want to do that as quickly as possible. You know, for many species of fish, if they're smaller in size, like that smallmouth bass I just released, I'm going to put that fish back into the water and it's going to bolt almost immediately. But if it's a bigger fish, you know, a muskie, a big lake trout, you may have to actually babysit that fish a little bit. Generally, what you're going to do is place them in the water, hold them by the tail, wait until that fish garners its composure. You can usually tell when that fish is ready to go. The really key to this whole thing is you, as an angler with proper catch and release, we're not only recycling these fish, but these fish are also naturally reproducing, which is a big part of the quality fishing we have today.